From the 216 The Net Studios, it's the Total BS Show. The Total BS Show is all about you, your business, your success, your struggles, the things you have been doing to take your business to the next level. Join hosts Alex Kolkowski and Kent Jones from Prime Media Consulting as they dive into the BS, business spotlight that is.
Welcome into this week's episode of the Total BS Show, where we've got nothing but total BS. I'm Kent Jones, of course. With me is the co-host extraordinaire,
Alex Kolkowski.
And today we are trying to stay on top of the business with our great friend and business partner of Dynico Roofing, Corky.
Hi, name is Corky Pilat, and the company's Dynico Roofing.
That's it. Corky, give us a little bit of background about who you are. We're glad that you're here, but tell us a little bit about yourself. What is Dynico Roofing, and how did we get there?
Well, it all started out in 1982. My brother started his roofing company. It was called Cost Roofing. And at the time, I was 12, and every summer, yeah.
You're 12?
Yeah, I was 12.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm aging myself. You gotta do the math. But so every summer I would pick up garbage from the roof, and then I started learning the trade.
Okay.
As we went on. So as the years went on through high school, I was learning it. I was getting taught. It wasn't necessarily by my brother, so I would be taught by tradesmen. And I said this before. It was some of the most hardworking, talented, awful people you'll know. Roofing is a hard life. It's you have the danger of it, the weather, the heat, and being a hard life too. I meant those guys could drink and party like no other, and that's who was raising me, through my teenage years. So that's how I got involved into the roofing.
So that was a few years ago. Was that back in the 80s?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I had a good friend. His dad was a roofer as well. I remember humping shingles up and down the ladder on my shoulder, and moving the hot tar and stuff like that when they did commercial roofs. It was nuts.
Yeah, the hot tar is the worst. It's
yeah. And then they would hey, here's $20 for the day.
Yeah, that's kind of how it was back then.
That's it. So you're really kind of a family brought you into this. You've been doing it for a long, long time. But a lot of times, like myself, I didn't stick with it. Right. I did go into construction, and I worked construction for a number of years, but here we are, almost 40 years later, and boom, you're rocking it out still.
Well, it wasn't necessarily the plan. I meant, in the family thing, I knew at one point I was good at it. I meant, because that's how you had to make a living. It was, we'd call it piecemeal, but it was like as much roofing you could put on, that's how you got paid.
Yeah. So
if you didn't work hard, you didn't make anything. And growing up, school-wise, it was like trades were still strong. So it was like, it wasn't uncommon where, if you didn't graduate high school, like today, everyone graduates
Right.
high school. So out of family of 5, I was the only one that did do that.
Wow.
And and then for a reason, I thought I should go to the college. Didn't know what I was going to be. I just thought, well, hey, I had to go to college.
Yeah, welcome to America.
Yeah. So now there's someone that just roofs day in, day out, taking a class or two at college, not knowing where to go.
Right.
And so that's kind of where, I guess that's kind of where my life started, because the joke of it is that no one would believe that some long-haired, mullet-wearing roofer
I had
would
that
be
too.
convinced. Yeah, you did. I can see a picture. That he would be convinced to become a male cheerleader in a community college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is crazy.
That is crazy.
But that's where I met my wife, and we've been.
She was a cheerleader?
She was.
No kidding.
The head cheerleader?
Well, maybe.
We call them beaver boosters.
Yeah.
You were a beaver booster.
A beaver booster.
That's
yeah.
it.
Wow.
But we've been. So it was 96. So we've been married 23, 24 years. So, so then I was taking college more seriously. I figured that wanted to get done with it, because she wanted to graduate, and I'm like, I wanted to do this same thing. But going through all that, I would just roof all day. So I would take night classes. And I would get through it. But that's all I knew how to do, was roofing. And like I said before, I was good at it. I was fast. And so by the time that I finished my degree, which was in marketing business, I started trying to seek out jobs.
Right. In the business world.
Yeah, in the business world. And I don't know if it's that similar today, because I haven't looked for a job in a long time. But back then it was, no, you don't have any experience.
Yeah.
Or, no, we don't want you. You need to have this. You have that.
You got the wrong type of experience.
And then you get beat down.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to get a job looking for experience when I'm calling you asking for experience?
Right.
Yeah.
And this is all I knew how to do. So I think today, when I talk to people, it's like I would take someone that would just work hard over experience, because I think it tells you what their work ethic is. It's not how much I know.
Yeah, I don't think I feel the same way. I would rather hire someone that doesn't have bad habits from another company that maybe trained them poorly or ineffectively, and I would rather have somebody that I can groom from ground zero. And if they fall on the sword I built, I can be okay with that versus me having to retrain them anyways.
That's it. Right. Stephanie, good morning or afternoon, I guess. Pete Galt, thanks for joining us. Phil Nasarino, how are you? And our good friend from Singapore, Gary Huang, how are you, brother? If you have any roofing questions, I know roofing's a big thing out there in Singapore, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
This is the guy to ask.
Well, the cool thing about this show, and I don't think we really said it at the top, is this show is spotlighting business owners about issues that business owners have to deal with every day. It's not about just who you are in a product dump.
Right.
So kind of you're getting into your story, and I'm always intrigued because I've heard this story before. Yeah. And I think it's a really cool story about how you really developed into the Dynico brand. And so kind of take me from where you left off on the job hunt to now going into business.
So, being said no to, the door being shut, it kind of just, knocked me down. So I just kept doing what I knew how to do. I would just roof. And so 10 years go by. And if you don't think 10 years go by, it goes by quick. And all of a sudden, now I'm just an older roofer.
Right.
And, with the family, now I have 2 small boys. Mm-hmm. And I'm staring in the mirror trying to figure out, what am I going to do? Am I just going to define my life as a roofer? And within that, it's not like I haven't learned stuff. It's not like I just go roofing, but that was my main job, right? But it's hard. It's hard on the body. And so, I learned estimating, pricing, not much selling. Back then, in the 80s and 90s, it was basically, you could sell, but the basic thing was that you just mail out the proposal and, wish for that. And then back then, there was only like 3 or 4 roofing companies in our area, which makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Right?
A little bit different today.
Yeah. Yeah. So going forward 10 years later, now I'm figuring out what I'm trying to do. So I figured I'm going to try to go out for my own roofing business. So through the state, you have to take a state test.
Right.
There's two different ones for roofing. You can be unlimited, which is where you can do commercial, residential, industrial. And then there's just limited, where you could just do residential.
Okay.
And I wanted to do the unlimited.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I know everything about roofing. I meant this should just be easy.
Right, because you've been doing it forever.
Yeah,
as a worker.
We did all the Arby's that were around here, all the flat roofs, all the hot tar, all wood shakes, shingles. I mean, I've done it all. And so I go there, and it's a 2.5 hour test, and the test had nothing to do with roofing. I was just like, it was like OSHA this, and how about this industrial? It's like, well, I don't know anything about industrial, and so I didn't even finish the test.
Really?
Yeah,
Like,
I only finished about
this. I gotta go.
I finished probably about 3/4.
Was it because you were stressed? Because you were nervous? Was it because
I didn't know what
overwhelmed?
Was on it. Yeah, and then too,
Hey, Joe.
the state test. It's not like you could just find like there's a book on it. Like, well, study this, study that.
Right.
It's all this random stuff from. You have to get something from OSHA, their state rules. You have to get something from the American Roofing Association. They have stuff on there, so it wasn't easy to be found. And a lot of people, when I took the test, this was their second or third time taking it, or they hire a ringer, meaning that they hire someone
to go
for their company to go take the test.
Beautiful.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and what that would be called is like a qualifier.
Right.
That means that that they have to work for the company, and they get taken on behalf of the company. But the interesting thing about that is that belongs to that person.
Yeah.
Not the
Oh,
company.
Interesting. So if you let them go, there it goes.
There goes
Wow.
the license. So, needless to say, I did not pass the test.
Okay. The first time.
The first time.
Right. You passed it by then.
We didn't complete it.
I didn't complete it.
Right. You might have passed it. You just
So,
didn't complete it.
and you only can take it every few months.
Right.
Okay.
On that.
States. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so I wait a couple months, and now have a better idea what's on it.
Sure.
So, I study what I can find, and I took that test, and I finished probably half hour to hour early.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Because now you're prepared.
Yeah, and I missed it by 3 questions. To pass.
Oh no!
Son of a.
All right,
Yeah,
so-
but you're sitting there for an hour looking at them all. You're going to be like, I feel good about this.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
good.
right. Yeah,
better
so,
than last time.
Right.
yeah. So that was
And this costs money to take this test.
it does.
So you're
It's
burning
like
some.
It was $350 at the time.
So now you're $700 into the stupid
Yeah.
state test.
So so now I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should take take the limited, which is an easier test, but it kind of constricts me to what I can do, or try one more time, or just give up. All I did know is I didn't want to work for my brother's company anymore.
Okay.
It was a small company. I never suggest, and my wife sometimes gets mad at this, but it's like, I will never work with you.
Yeah, I say the same thing to my wife. I don't work with it because it's hard to bring the relationship home.
Yeah.
When there's issues at work.
Yeah, when you see two people hate each other for 20 some years, it's like, yeah, I don't want that.
Yeah.
And plus, I want to talk.
If you're gonna hate me, you're gonna hate me for way other different
Right.
reasons.
That's right.
Yeah, it's like I want to come home and not tell you about my day, not working the day with you. So
Right.
She understands now.
By the way, your wife is very beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
She's a runner.
Yeah.
She's one. I mean, we'll talk about maybe that a little later. She's a marathon person, Boston
Yeah.
Marathon, not the winner, but like second place.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and we'll talk about that. That's interesting because she was a late runner in life.
Yeah.
So,
We'll get into that.
Yeah. So, what I started to do is now, hey, if no one wants to hire me because I don't have experience, I'll just try other roofing companies.
Right.
So, I tried some of the ones around here, and they're large roofing companies.
Right.
And there was one in Lake Zurich I looked at, and I couldn't believe that there was companies like this because you only know what you know. So I knew a family small roofing company.
Right.
It was very successful. I meant we were 8% new construction, but we were in the boom. I meant when McHenry County was, so, and I go to this place and I'm just like, wow, because they have like an accounting room. I'm like, you need a room for accounting,
Right.
and then they have elevators, and then they showed me like football fields of roofing equipment, and it was just, it was just amazing.
Right.
And so I interviewed for it. I looked the company up because
Right.
they wanted.
You did
to
your research.
Yeah. And I found out that was someone, kind of like my brother, built it up in the 80s and 90s with the boom, and then grew it
Mm-hmm.
to a large company. So I'm getting interviewed by his kid, their son. So I kind of lose half respect there,
Right.
because he didn't build it,
Right.
Right.
but he sure took the nice big desk in
They
the
do.
corner. So they asked me all tons of questions, like, well, why are you, why are you leaving your family's company? I'm like, well, it's just my family owns it, but it's not any part of the company for me.
Right.
And it was back forth. We did 3 different interviews, and they said, well, we want to hire. It was great. It was better pay. It had, it had health. It had bonuses.
Right.
It
All
had
the
a vehicle,
benefits. Yeah. Vehicle too. Whew.
And they wanted to take some of the work that I had with my
Sure.
brother's company. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
And I said, how would you like if I did that to you?
What's happening, Josh?
So they agreed that we just leave it.
Right.
And I said, hey, can I have a few days? Because I think there was 2 or 3 days he gave me till the end of the week.
Think about it.
To think about it.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. So it was on the last day, and they always tell everyone this, like, all that's a made-up story. It's the God's honest truth. It was the last day. We're typing up this whole paragraph, and it was either I'm going to take this job or not to the big roofing company. And it was yes or no. And my wife's like, I'm going to go get the mail. And she goes, gets the mail. And I think I left a little part of the story, but the last thing is I took my test for the third time.
Oh,
The
geez.
third time, the state test.
Yeah.
And I did the unlimited again. I'm like, no, I'm going to try one more time. Well, I did pass that test.
Wow.
I got a 78. All you
And it
need
was
is
in
a
the
70,
mail.
So,
So your wife
Hey.
goes.
Yeah.
Your wife goes out there and it's in the mail.
She goes out. She brings she got back something from
Unbelievable.
the state, and I open it up, and it's my state license for Dynico Roofing. The same day, at almost the same time that I was going to type yes
Wow.
and take this job, and I said it had to be a sign,
Yeah.
and that's when Dynico Roofing started.
That's
Awesome. And you've been in business for how long ever since?
It started in I think 2009. Some of the regrets I have. There's a lot of things that happened in 2009. We had a surprise baby, so we had 3 boys.
Is that
We
like a
had-
Jack in the Box thing?
Yeah, it is a Jack in a Box,
Bring.
and his name happens to be Jack.
Jack. See,
Yeah.
look at that.
You're here all week.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, right.
Try the veal. That's good.
I'm not going to go with that Jack in the Box.
That's
comment,
right.
but I-
That's right.
So we had a surprise baby. I think one of my regrets that I do have with Dynico is that, and this could be with other business owners too, is that I started out too cautious, too slow.
Right.
Meaning that I think the most business I've done would probably been in the last 5 to 6 years
Okay.
on moving stuff faster. The first year was like the phone bill was a big deal.
Right.
You
The
know, it's
$80
like-
bucks a
Right.
month.
It's like, that was
Yeah.
like crushing. It's like, where am I going to get this $80 a month?
Right.
Not
to mention you have all the calls coming in saying, hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to try this?
Right.
You should really spend your money here.
Yeah.
You should join this thing. And that all think because you start a business that all of a sudden you're wealthy. You know what to do because you're a business owner when really you're just
Yeah.
trying to get your shit together.
Yeah. And so mine was the one line in the phone book. And so it was slow. So I just kept on working for my brother and trying to get something going on that. And I'll tell you how I got my first big job with Dynico, because that was kind of pretty cool.
Hang on to that thought, folks. You're listening to the Total BS Show. You're involved. This show is totally interactive. If you're out there listening, you got questions for Corky as just a business guy or a roofer, let us know. That's the joy of this show. And of course, Corky, if people want to catch up with you after this show, where can they find you?
As far as where am I located?
Yeah, or
What's your phone
website.
number, website?
Website's Dynico, so it's Dynico, the number 1. Or that's actually my email. Dynico is just dynico.net. So just think like you're catching a dinosaur. We're located in McHenry Corporate Center.
Yep.
And if you needed to contact us, you certainly call us at 815-385-2102. And that's where it originated from, is from McHenry. So McHenry phone number.
That's
McHenry
awesome.
Company.
I love it. Now you're going to talk to us about landing the first big job with Dynico.
Yeah, I'll get into that
Okay.
part. So to trace back, so my regret was that I kind of started out kind of slow. So still working at my brother's company, hating it. Surprise baby, trying to figure out how to take care of now a third.
It's a big jump from
right.
Yeah, it's 2-on-1 with one kid. Then you got man-to-man defense with the two kids.
Yeah.
Now you have to play zone defense with the third kid. It's a total jump from 2 to 3 that people don't understand.
It's a 12-year-old, 10-year-old, and now I have a new baby. So that's a big gap there.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I've got some gaps.
Yeah.
That didn't come out right.
I folded too.
Yeah, I apologize.
So for the first job, and I'll explain some of the other things that went on to where I'm at now today. But the first job was interesting because it was a phone call, and it was a guy that was asking about roof venting, about venting the roof and all this other stuff. And I was like on the phone with him for 20 minutes, and I was explaining what he should do. And he's like, was there a charge for that? I'm like, no. I said, if you just do this, if you're handy, do it on your own, and you can do that. And he's like, I'm just shocked. He goes, I really appreciated that you explained everything to me, and you're not going to charge me. I'm like, well, no. I'm like, if you could do it yourself, that's fine. I don't have an issue with that. I said, if you know anyone ever, just have him give me a call. Well, the company he worked for, the guy needed a whole new roof. And it was a $14,000 job. So I did I don't even know if I even did a repair for Dynico yet.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was zilch. And then I get a call, and he tells me that someone recommended him from the company and that you were very knowledgeable and you were a very good guy. And that's how I got my first $14,000 job. Yeah. Just from
giving away something. Yeah.
Well, and it is. And I think people try to do that, but they don't. They're guarded, like, oh, I'm not going to give this away. It's like, what does it hurt if you help someone? Because you never know where you're going to get that back in return.
Right.
And I have tons of stories like that. I had one where it was one of the stories I was telling you guys earlier about. I was just helping an insurance adjuster grab a ladder, drag it around, and I bumped him probably like 4 or 5 different times and always helped him. And it doesn't mean I got the job that was approved by insurance or even got the job. It was just being
a
nice.
human being.
Right.
Yeah. And then he worked for an insurance company where they needed a roof. And he's like, you have to call this guy. And they assure I think they're in Harvard, they assure all the farmland and farmers out there in that way. Well, that ended up almost being a $30,000 job.
Yeah.
Just because I was nice to someone else.
There you go.
So
as a roofer, do you prefer the 412 pitch or the 912 pitch?
The 412, especially getting older.
Right. So
for those that don't know what the blue hell you're talking about, please enlighten us with what the blue hell you're talking about.
Well, so we're called I do flat roofs, and I do commercial roofing too. We've done Gerbers and things like that. But that would be called steep pitch roofing. So that can go anywhere from a 312 to a 1212. So that just means a 412 is like this, a 1212 is like that. And obviously, if you can't stay on it, you have to, you always have to use rope and harnesses anyway. But for boards and hooks, you have to kind of build a ladder system.
Jacks up there,
just to stay on the roof.
So it's 4 inches of rise for every 12 inches of rise. Right. Yeah. Right. So or 9 inches of rise for every 12. Right. Yeah. So
No, I'm not as dumb.
Well,
I'm still dumb.
No, that's it. Just not as.
So now to I always kind of explain my story, and I've only told 4 or 5 times, and so it's kind of weird to put your life out there. I choose a different way. People will say, well, this is a roofing product, or this is that, or this is this, and this is how you install it, or this and that. That's fine, and I can do that for you, but I go a different route because you always have to answer the question, and all of us have to answer. It's well, why you?
Right.
Why should I choose
I'm
Alex
getting 5
from Prime
bids.
Media?
Yeah.
Right.
Why should I go on Kent's show? It's
We're the best.
Well, right, but I'm the best.
We're the
roofer.
best within a 3-mile radius.
That's right. Don't kid yourself.
Well, it's the same thing too. It's like,
Best
I'm
in
the
the
best at, getting you on Google SEO.
Yeah.
That's great, but everyone says that.
Right.
And-
Everyone has the best customer service. Everyone has great prices. Everyone has great branding, right? Our name is known, whatever. But it's really about who you frickin' are. And you have to get into the heart of what people actually are and who they actually are.
Oh, absolutely. And I think I do have a little advantage over some of these other roofing companies because I did it for a living. I had to survive.
Right.
You had to
Yeah.
work hard. There was no coasting. There's no coasting in roofing. So I have advantage on that, but doesn't mean that would make me a good business person, right? Because we have people that are the best chefs in the world, but they don't know how to run a restaurant.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that just because I was good at roofing, I know how to run a roofing company.
Correct.
Right.
So, and a lot of it's just learning. It's like learning in the failing part. So in 2000, I think it was close to 2011. So my son, Jack, he was around 18 months and healthy. He was the healthiest out of the three boys. I mean, he came
Probably the prettiest too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was. I meant the other ones, they came out early. They had all these specialists around him. Not Jack. I mean, he went full term. He was like 9 pounds. Just perfect. Just perfect. And he was fine. I mean, all the way up to 18 months, he would look at his, mama, and they would look at each other, and he would say hi. And one of these other things I explained is how she played a little game with him, like hi, baby, and she would be like, he would be like, hi, mama. So they always had that interaction. And my wife's a teacher by nature, so my kids were always advanced.
Sure,
And she
yeah.
always did all
Developed.
these developed. Yeah,
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
always did these steps that normally don't do until they get in school.
Right.
So I was ahead, and he was no different. He was on the same track. And so when we got his round of shots, his vaccine, the MMR, and this is nothing. So this is nothing against vaccines. So
Vaccines,
whatever.
right.
This is I'm just telling you what happened for.
It's your story.
It's
Your
just a
personal
timeline.
story.
It's just a
So
timeline. Right.
I don't need comments like, oh, well, it's like, I'm glad your kids are healthy and when they got the shots, whatever, great. But that's not me. People still die of a flu shot once in a while.
That's
too.
right.
So when he got his round of shots, within a day, he wouldn't look at my wife anymore. He just stared down. He wouldn't look at her. No eye contact, no
Wow.
nothing.
Hey, Musa.
And his language was just disappearing, and that's unheard of because once you have language, it always
Right.
progresses.
Right.
And so it wasn't. And she would, she did the game she played, hi baby, and he just wouldn't look at her.
Oh.
That's the last time that happened. So now my life,
Oh,
from a startup that I'm trying to figure out to get it going, to a company that I just don't want to work for my family
Yeah.
company anymore.
Yeah.
And now for our third child, now we're losing him. We lost him as far as what we knew how Jack was.
right.
Right.
So it's like, boy, some work had to be done. I had to figure this out. And I think we all have that crossroad on different steps in our life for what am I going to do? How am I going to figure this out?
Yeah.
And so, the therapists come in, the state come in, they evaluate him and all that stuff. And, of course, they say he's autistic.
Yeah.
And so what's life look like now? Now I have a disabled child, which
Totally
I
different
don't
picture,
know.
right.
Yeah, I don't know. And I still don't if he's going to be okay. I see a lot of great things happening right now, but
I mean,
still don't.
you shared something personally with me in Christmas time about how with music when he was standing in the choir.
Yeah.
Like that put a tear to my eye pretty quickly.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I can explain. I meant, and I won't get into this because we're more business, but with an autistic child, they see hundreds of different shades and lines. What you're looking at, you're just looking at something. They see it totally different. They hear things that if a lawnmower's going off, it could be a tornado in
Sure.
their head. And so, typical things is they have patterns. They stare, like my son, his stemming thing is he stares at his fingers, like that. That's to calm him down.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know what his environment is.
Sure.
and noises and pitches and sounds, and I mean all that stuff. I mean he check marks all that stuff, and it's funny for someone that hates noise. He creates so much noise because he's inputting
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
that sound with
Yeah.
his own sound.
Yeah.
So life changes. I mean, you get these surprises, you don't know what to do. So in 2012, still trying to figure my life out now. That my brother's son, my nephew, he passed away at NIU. It was towards Thanksgiving, and so at that time, everything started to hit because we were into the recession big time. Like, recession started in 2008, 2009, but it all crumbled with the 3 years past that.
Right.
And we knew, I seen signs because I'm in construction. That's the first ones that seen the signs because everyone was losing their job. Everyone was losing their house.
Right.
And my brother was no exception. He had the big house. You know, he built the building. Life was good. He was losing it.
Yeah.
Trying to save his company, didn't know what to do, didn't react. And that's if you have any advice you want to ask from me, you have to react to your environment when it's happening. You cannot just throw money at something and not get you need a different result, because if it's not working, throwing more money at it is not going to change it.
So you need to respond, not necessarily react. Right.
Yeah.
That's a good way I like to put it. Yeah.
And most small business owners, and I think you'll agree with this, is when they start their business and they start making money. Maybe you start making $500 a month, then it's $1,000, then it's $2,000, then it's $3,000, $4,000. They start saying, "Holy crap, this thing is working," and they start building their lifestyle on the 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, whatever you start making a month. Maybe you start making 6 figures on your business, and you start building that lifestyle around that.
Yeah. When
you have the ebb, the flow, the crash, the burn, whatever, and you don't prepare your world around that, that's tough, because you never think that your business is going to fail.
No.
You always think that you're going to have, the land of milk and honey. And most businesses fail because they don't protect and don't watch and they don't see things going. They want to throw just the money at it. If I spend more, maybe I'll get more. Well, it's not really the case. You really got to evaluate what's working and what's not working. And sometimes hard decisions need to be made. And a lot of business owners don't like to do that. Maybe you're an employee. Maybe you're hiring a friend that's doing something for you, and he's not really doing a great job, but you want to give him something. And then now you sever that tie. Maybe you lose the friend because of that too. Like, there's some painful decisions that get made if you're not protecting your backside.
Oh, sure. And then, he had 18 or whatever years to that or more, because it was a boom. Like, McHenry County was growing. It was a boom. It was one of the fastest growing counties at the time. So he knew what he knew. It's like every year was going to be a better year. Every year was going to be a bigger year. But that knocked a lot of companies out for sure.
I mean, I've personally watched a lot of people go to the land of milk and honey just to find out that they're lactose intolerant.
Yeah.
I mean, when that crash came, it was like, oh man, it's gone.
So how do you get through the bad days?
Well, my days are getting worse, obviously, from the story. So I'll finish that up and then I'll get through some of the things. So at that time, my brother's company was failing. He was losing everything, lost his son, my nephew.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, his brother-in-law, which I grew up, I knew him my whole life. He died. He had a massive heart attack on the way home from work.
Jeez.
Oh my goodness.
And that guy, he was going to retire. He was retiring in his 50s. He was a bank owner. So he was ready and set, and he's gone. So now 2 weeks later, we're at another funeral. And so it's like, I have no idea what's going on. And so we're starting to pack the office up. And even though I didn't like working for my brother, and I had resentment there. So I always say it's like, don't stick around and worsen the relationship if you could try to get out.
Yeah.
Right.
But we did have a nice conversation. We were on the field burning old files. And then that doesn't sound illegal.
IRS, come on.
Yeah.
It's past 7 years.
We were beating up the copy machine.
Yeah. But I had a nice conversation with him, so I don't have regrets at that part, because after that, it was like 3 or 4 weeks later, he died.
Oh,
Your brother?
Yeah,
Holy smokes!
yeah. I'll tell you that, like
back
my dad,
to back to back
yeah,
blows.
Holy cow!
and it's my dad used to smoke Camels, not filters.
Oh,
So I'm
yeah.
like, okay, I get why you went, but it's like, boy, a sibling, a brother, well, that's hard.
Yeah.
That's some tough stuff. It was. I don't think for 2 years I could say brother without
Sure.
teary eyed.
Yeah.
So now my life's really in turmoil.
Sure.
I have a disabled child. I have a company that's no more. He's gone. I have a startup that hasn't really done much because I, reacted slow to it.
Yeah.
And banks tanking everything. As far as the building that we
Yeah.
go to work at, their houses and everything else. So it's like, now what do I do? So as the question you brought up too, it's like, well, what do you do when you're down like that?
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do. I was just like, I'm stuck. I feel like we're cursed. All this happened within a couple months' time.
Right.
And, so we moved everything from the office into a storage shed. And now I'm stuck at home trying to figure out how work days look like.
Wow.
Yeah.
And my brother's wife, she owned the company, and she's like pretty much closing. I'm like, well, if you're closing, I need to know what to do. I need to find another job.
Right.
And it was back forth every other day. It was just crazy. So, so then, and the other thing I bring up when I tell my life story, because I remember it, and I truly believe that it ties into some of the successes that I have today. It was like 2 weeks after that. Don't know where my life's going. It's just in a big giant mess. And I had this dream, and it was a new construction, which makes sense because that's all we did.
Right.
80% new
Right.
construction.
Right.
And I was standing in a wheat field, and I was watching the guys work, and I turn around, and there's my brother, and he's just standing there, and he starts walking away, and I'm like, Jim, I'm like, stop, I need to talk to you. He's like, no, I gotta go. And I said, no, I need to talk to you. He's like, you'll be okay. And I remembered that. And the dream seemed like it was color. And even in my dream, I'm tearing up and crying. And I told my wife the dream, which I was tearing up and crying.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think even when I told my life story 6 months ago, it still hits me, and it's been over 6 years.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, you know what the wheat field means? And I'm like, no, I don't. She goes, it means plentiful. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, I don't know what that means. I mean, I know what plentiful means, but I'm like, I don't know how I can get my life straight and
Right.
get out of
Right.
this.
What does the dream mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not even 2 weeks later, I get a call from a director from Little City Foundation. So it's for disabled people, mentally disabled.
Mhm.
And it's out of Palatine.
Right.
And he's like, hey, he goes, I knew your brother. I am so sorry for your loss. And we haven't done anything from 20 years. So it's not like this was an ongoing contract
Right.
or anything. He goes, I'd like to give you these 4 big buildings, try to get you these 4 big buildings, when you bid them. And before I leave as director. And so we did get them. And that saved us. If I didn't get that,
Wow.
we would have been done.
Wow.
Right.
So I always, when I say my little victories, I say that's my wheat year. That's him looking up,
Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
he'll be okay.
Right.
And
Wow.
but then I get my wheat years every year. I mean, so as I'm growing a company, I saved a company because I was able to buy my sister-in-law, and then the wheat year after that, I was asked to bid on a complex in Aurora, and a consulting firm asked if I wanted to bid.
Sure.
So, there's 4 or 5 other companies bidding, and they usually pick the low bidder.
Right.
Well, I was starting to get a couple jobs here and there, so I'm starting to get my, I'm starting to say this may be okay. I could maybe try to make this work.
Right.
Why that's going on, my sister-in-law still owns part of the company, which is trying to sabotage it to close it. She didn't want to see it. She just
Wow.
wanted, if
Sure.
it wasn't him running it, she didn't want
No
to see
one
it.
gets it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She wanted to see it fail. And so I put this bid in, and it was like, I'm on my last hour because I just ignored it.
Yeah.
And so it was due at midnight. And I had like 2 hours before midnight to try to bid this giant thing out. And I'm just like I didn't even ever go to it. I never did anything with it. I'm just looking at it on Google Earth and trying to figure out. I'm like doing big boxes and whatever. And so I throw a bid of like $700 some $1,000, which we never had. We never won a contract like that before.
Right.
And so then I faxed it over 2 minutes before midnight. And a couple weeks later, I get a call and they're like, hey, can you come down and meet in Aurora? They'd like to talk to you.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay.
Sure. All right.
Hey, 2 hours worth of work.
Yeah. Well, good too, because I never seen the place anyway.
Right.
And I thought it was, I'd meet the lady, walk around the place. And for whatever reason, I'm like, well, I should prepare a little bit. So I like took screenshots of like a roof blown off and then a good roof and then, a damaged vent and a good vent. And I just screenshot on permanent Walgreens and made like tchotchkes, like little flip books.
Yeah.
Right.
Us, them.
Yeah.
And so I thought I was just going to walk around with this lady around the community. And she's like, oh, we're all downstairs. And I'm like, downstairs? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. Well, this community, I don't know. Aurora it's like double wide roads, like flowers everywhere.
Right.
And so we go downstairs and there's this big boardroom table and it's got like 20 some people.
Whoa.
And I'm like,
what do you walk into?
Son of a.
They rope-a-doped you.
Yeah. It's like, you don't know, but I'm working from out of my bedroom on my bed. So,
Right.
So
glad we didn't meet in my office.
Yeah,
that's right.
That would have been yeah. And so there was lawyers, doctors there, everyone was on this board.
Yeah.
And so they just, all these questions. And they're like, well, it's kind of weird because it's a insurance thing, but you did a cash bid, but we still want you to look at all insurance paperwork. And it was 60 buildings.
Wow.
60 buildings. And the board president convinced all 60 people, because they had different policies, to make a claim and give all that money back to the association. She convinced 60 people.
Wow.
Isn't that
A
crazy?
heck of a salesperson.
So I didn't miss a beat. I answered all their questions. And then a week later, they're like, hey, you got the job. I'm like, oh, great.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
That's your wheat field right there.
Well, not yet.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. No.
Sit tight.
Yeah, sit
But
tight.
wait, there's more.
Yeah. So I happened to get a couple other jobs. So it's like, okay, this is going good. Still dealing with someone trying to sabotage the company, wreck it. Still working from home, which is another thing I hate. I want to work with my wife and I don't want to work at home.
Right.
And so I can't, it's getting closer to winter. I signed this contract. So now I obligated myself. I can't find any additional crews or workers because this is a big job. It's a giant job. And now I'm stuck on a timeline. You have to finish.
Sure.
When you say you're going to finish, blah, 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 blah. And so I don't know what to do. Every other day, I'm not kidding, every other day, I'm trying to figure out how I could get out of this because it's going to destroy me. I don't know what to do. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to do it.
Because a lot of time, whale hunting can be the death of your business.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely 100%.
Well, you're in a canoe. Hard to get that whale in there.
Right. Everyone thinks getting the big project, the big paycheck, the big commission check is that's what everyone wants as a business owner. Sometimes it's not that at all. You want to just kind of get your build up and get money coming in from a variety of different sources versus the one. Because if that one messes up or somehow goes sour,
And it almost did. Yeah.
you're toast. Your business is done. Your personal life can be done because business owners risk a crap load to start their business.
Yeah, and 100% agree. It, as much as it either could have made me, it definitely could have ended me. And so, still not knowing what I'm going to do. Now I have the stack, and I'm not kidding. I keep the box because I'm like, hey, look at all this I had looked through. 60 stacks of insurance paper this high. I'm looking through each one, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Why should I even be looking at this anyway? I gave a cash bid.
Right.
And I started looking at this one. I'm like, well, wait a minute. This building's more than what I bid on it. And I started looking at another one. Well, this building is too. And I'm like, I know how to buy more time. I go back to the consulting firm and I said, hey, they want me to start in a week and I didn't have the workers yet.
Right.
I didn't have anything, right? I'm not going to show up with like 7 guys to,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And so I said, yeah, I can't do it. I can't do it for the $700,000. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, you submitted and you signed a contract. I'm like, no, I can't do it for that. I said, the insurance paperwork here, I said, each building is worth more than what I bid on it. He's like, I said, and you were always under the assumption you told me that they would have had to add to this project. He's like, right? I'm like, they don't have to. I said, but I can't do it for the $700,000. I could do it for $300,000 more. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, they don't know it. I said, but they're committing insurance fraud. And what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to buy time.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to get out of this dead, you know.
Right.
Right.
And he's like, well, just call insurance companies and tell them you'll do it for less. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I said, I'm not going to do that. He's like, so you're telling me you're not going to do it for this price? I'm like, no, my price is void now. I said, they're committing insurance fraud.
I mean, yeah.
I don't want to be tied into that.
You
And
can't, right, you can't profit off a loss.
Right.
Right. And that's the thing that a lot of businesses do is that to get the money now, small business owners will be like, I'm going to take whatever I can get. Give me more than what the project's worth because I need the money now. And it's a mistake. Like you got to make sure that you value your time, you value the process, you value the systems that you have in place. Because if you don't, that's going to be a death of 1,000 knives for you too, or just one big knife.
Yeah.
Right.
In your case.
Yeah.
Chop it right off.
And so he's like, so you're telling me you can't do this, but you do for $300,000 more? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
They were so mad, but it bought me time.
That's it.
I needed time. I needed 2 to 3 weeks. Well, here's the thing. They had lawyers.
Sure.
They were all prepared for me.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything.
Right.
I'm working out in my bedroom.
Right.
I don't have money
You
for a
had
lawyer.
you.
And every time they would respond to me, I would respond back in red. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Because I'm still trying to either lose the job or do the job.
Right.
So I ended up finding, which isn't bad because I made an
Right.
extra $300,000 to buy time. And so I finally found enough crews and we started the project. And I have the pictures on the Cost Roofing website.
Right.
I of starting and everything else. Well, had hiccups. Those people were just awful. I don't know if it's just Aurora or it's just those people.
Well, yeah, it's probably that group.
I don't
of
want to.
people.
Yeah,
Aurora's a horrible town. No,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
We love Aurora and all of
So-
our Aurora listeners.
Huge
out there.
listeners.
Huge listening base.
Yeah.
out there.
So it was getting out of hand where there were side meetings and all this other stuff. But now my confidence was there because, now I'm dug in.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. And you guys are all in chaos and doing this stuff. So I called the roof consultant because it's his job. They hired him. Hey, talk to the board president, roof consultant, roofer. What's all these other meetings? So I had a meeting and it had all these people in there again. And I looked at the ones that were creating all the havoc for me.
Right.
It was the lawyer and it was the doctor. Looking right at him. And I said, we're not having any more meetings. I'm not having side meetings with you. I'm having a side meeting with the board president and the roof consultant, which you hired. That's it. I said, I'm not doing any of this other stuff.
Right.
If you have any complaints, you talk to the board president. So you got it? And and I was the devil. I was the devil the whole time we were out there. But you know what the great thing was? We put our last shingle on. And that night, it snowed almost a foot of snow. And get this, the board president, like I said, I was the devil. They just hated me. She ended up sending me a letter saying that she resigned as board president. Don't blame her.
Boy, right?
And she's like, and you know what? I really love my new roof and gutters. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sweet.
There you
Isn't that
go.
awesome?
So
That is good.
all this time, why do you still work for yourself? What's the motivation?
Well, jokingly, I say, well, no one's going to hire me, right?
Right.
Especially at your age.
Right.
Especially.
That's illegal. We have an HR person.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Sorry, I can't say that.
Um,
So let's say you crap all over yourself. No, I can't say that either. So.
yeah. Well, everyone has different reasons why. I meant, it's what I know. And I think I put myself in that position of, being desperate or losing everything around me at that time. Would I say if no one died and my son was okay, would I be where I'm at? Probably not.
Right.
I probably hang somewhere in my comfort zone. I have to. And I'll tell you, It's not comfortable. I mean, if you think that, and it's not to talk anyone out of it. It's to say that, and I'd like to ask you guys the same thing. There isn't a comfort level to it.
No.
I have to answer to more people.
Yeah.
Than someone that just checks in their
Sure.
job from
Yep.
9 to 5.
Correct.
I almost envy them.
The funny thing is and I laugh sometimes when I hear the people say, well, I deserve $15 more an hour or whatever it is an hour. I'm like, okay, you don't see the risk that the small business owner put in to start the business, the expense that they had to buy a building or rent a building or whatever, the liability insurance that they have, the workers' comp that they have in case you screw up your job because you get paid $15 an hour or whatever it is now. You don't see the expenses that come from just having you walk through the door, but you're the employee and you in your world, because you have your own sphere of what bothers you, gets told, I deserve this from you. It's hilarious to me that the employees think that it's them. It's not them. It's the business owner, because the employees can go, the business owner's still here.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. I think you agree with that too. There's a business owner is always not only looking out for themselves in regards to competition. They have the internal struggles of bills being paid, and then they have the internal aspect of, are my employees lying to me? Are they cheating on me? Are they buying side gigs? Are they doing whatever? What else? What's happening in my business? Where's my pulse going in the business? Am I on top of it or am I not?
Right.
And that's tough for a business owner like yourself, because you don't have a year to kind of even fix yourself. You have 6 months or 9 months in your industry, right for roofing.
Yep.
So you have to make sure all your ducks are in line March to November. And that's tough. So, I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you in your business?
Well, it's gonna be low. It's gonna be 4. I think one of the things I'm trying to do is where I don't have to be in on a daily thing.
Okay.
I meant,
kind of fire yourself a little bit.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
I meant there's days where it's great, did something, it just went perfect, and there's other days it's like, if I'm not there though, everything kind of crumbles down. It's just like when my brother passed away. I mean, if I wasn't there, it would have certainly been done. But for me, I don't have a walk away person. I meant, so do I get thrilled about thinking I'm going to just have to work every workable day for the whole season, for Illinois? Like, no, I don't. All the stress, all the cost, all the, and plus it's a dangerous job. I'm so thankful that so far that no one's got hurt or hurt bad.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes if you get hurt, especially in roofing, there's chances are that you can also die from a fall.
Yeah.
I mean, we're one of the most expensive when it comes to insurance.
Right.
So, spending $40,000, $50,000 a year for the what if,
yeah,
you don't get that bad.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, so there's a cost to that. So there's a lot of things where, and it's not to discourage anyone. It's just that for me, I can't walk away because I don't have a proven system where everything's going to run smooth and everything, goes out.
Could you even go on a vacation during your season? Is it possible to leave for a week?
I would have to pre-plan a week ahead.
Yeah.
So no.
Okay. So how much power do your customers have in your business? By that is like, are they the driving force, or how much power does your suppliers have in your business?
I don't say suppliers too much because I have choices. So I think but I don't abuse myself. Everything's a relationship, right? So it's like there's everyone that comes to my office that's selling roofing, right? I mean, you have you have the big box stores, you have the supply chains that are around here, and it's about building relationships. So, one, I didn't buy for 3 or 4 years. He knew my brother, so that kind of meant something to me.
Right.
And I'd always goof around with him because he'd show up unexpected. So I locked the door and I pretend I was looking at something while he stood there for a minute or two outside.
Right.
But he always put up with my stuff. But then it's like, you know what? And so I finally give him, sales, and I give him a whole bunch now.
Sure.
And because I built a relationship with them, so they don't really landlock me because I don't have to buy from you. I can buy
Right.
from whoever.
Right.
The power with the problem with the customer is because I even have issues today, is because they don't think it's a 50-50 deal. I'm going to be a good contractor for you. Shake hands. You're going to be a good customer for me.
Right.
Right.
They don't. It's not that.
No, it's 80-20 them.
Yeah.
In their world.
Well,
Yeah.
Also, though, because of media DIY shows, everybody thinks, hey,
YouTube. I can YouTube this.
right, and this is how it's supposed to go. Now, I know nothing about roofing as a owner, but I've seen shows, and you should be able to get this roof done in a week. You know, and it might be a 3-week job, and so now you're dealing with that too, and now you work for me because you're the contractor, but not really. I'm doing a job for you. You got to be a good customer.
How many
I know
clients
this
have you
business.
fired?
Yeah,
or
that's a good
wanted to
question.
fire?
How many of you got up on the roof and pushed
I can
off?
tell you right now, there's a few clients I want to fire.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of hard. So, most of my work that I have, it's a one and done, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Builders,
30-year guarantee.
There's a couple builders I just choose not to do anything for.
Right,
Anymore. They're
right.
just they think that's okay to make me wait 90 days, 120 days on
Yeah, no
payout.
thanks.
I just can't do it.
Right.
We do, like a lot of roofing companies do not do new construction because they don't want to wait for that payout.
Right.
Where I do, because I still think it's important part of my relationship as far as as
Sure.
roofing goes with
Right.
builders. There's honestly, I would say that half the customers I deal with, they're just horrible. They think, yeah,
Sure.
But you need them. You got
They do.
you got it. They're demanding.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone's demanding because you're the customer. They think their money is gold.
Yeah.
And they're blessing you, my child, for taking
Yeah.
taking this job for us.
Yeah.
And we have chosen you. They've come down from the mountaintop. And they've said, Corky, we are choosing you as the roofer after the 700 bids we got on Facebook.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot
Google.
of these, especially when you're a small business. Now they can walk into Meyer and they'll treat people poorly because it's a huge chain, but they also think that way. Oh, you need this job, buddy.
Right.
You're a small business. If you don't roof my single house,
I'm gonna give you a negative review on
right,
Google.
and your family's going to go hungry, and it's not necessarily the case, right? But that's the way a lot of people's thought process is.
Right.
Well, and that too, because I'm always learning, right? So customer is going to teach me. I'll tell you that, because one of the things I've learned from last year, because I had like 3 or 4 in a row I'm dealing with right now. Okay, so talking about $50,000 of my money being held up from a difficult customer. In the back of my mind, when I talked to him and I gave that bid, I knew I should have walked away, and I didn't. So
Right.
Follow your
is,
gut,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
You might have put the time in for the bid. You might want that work, but I say it's not worth it. It's not worth the aggravation and the risk to do that.
We got about 4 minutes. Of course, this is the Total BS Show, and today we've got Dynico Roofing and Corky Pilat, the owner of Dynico Roofing. If people want to know more about you, they got some questions, they need a job done, how they get in touch with you?
Well, we're located in McHenry, so the address for that is 4547 Prime Parkway. We're in McHenry Corporate Center, and they can certainly call us at 815-385-2102. And if you want to look us up, website's dynico.net, and we're easily to be found on Google.
Yeah, and as we got about 3.5 minutes before we sign off this week, folks, if you want a business owner that is legit. I mean, you've heard this guy's story. He does things the right way. He does things fair and honestly. He doesn't break the law. There could have been a way. Yeah, there could have been a way in that story with the HOA that you just, well, we'll just do it, but you have principles. I mean, and that's huge. How do you not get burned out after all this time? How do you not get burned out?
I think for me, there's 2 things. The simple in my head. Well, there's a couple things. Keep it simple, stupid. don't make things more than it has to be.
Right.
Yeah.
And the big thing I would say for anyone, when you say I deserve as a business owner, I deserve, you don't deserve anything.
That's correct.
Yep.
When things start working, you keep moving forward and put your foot on the gas. Not I deserve.
Yeah.
I deserve a new
I love it.
$50,000 truck, or I deserve this. And I think one of the best things that I can take out of some of the horrible situations is that every day, my life, I'm living in a recession.
Yeah.
Meaning that
Yep.
I'm responsible, because that's not my money, and that's one of the biggest downfall that business owner has. Oh, look at how much money I made. We're a large purchase company, meaning that every purchase someone buys is a large purchase usually. But at the end of that, that's not my money. That's mine to do business and keep the doors open.
Yeah.
So,
One of the blessings I think I had when I started my career, before I started Prime Media, was I worked for a marketing company, and I started in 2007, right when the recession happened, and it was amazing to see example after example after example of people who built a house of cards, and people who never set themselves up for the downstroke like we talked about before, and how they couldn't do what they were doing anymore because the bills weren't coming in. And I think that most people don't remember that even today anymore. They kind of think that's the past. Now everything is starting to go better, right? And I think that what we have to really focus on as business owners is always prepare for the famine. Not in the sense of shelter money as much as possible, right? Because that's going to kick you into self. That's a whole nother discussion about, you should spend money to make money, right? But they don't plan on, what if I lose this employee? What if I lose this contract, this whale that I've had? What if I lose that?
Yeah.
There's things that we need to prepare for as a business owner, and have a succession plan. Peter asked, how do you plan to leave your company? Are you defined by you? Right now, can you leave? You said you can't even maybe leave a week during the season unless you really plan for it. What happens if you need to leave? What happens if you fall off a ladder? What happens in your business if something impacts you where you can't do what you're doing anymore? I think a lot of business owners really need to think about that.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's 3 or 4 topics right there that could fill
an hour.
Yeah, for
Sure.
the 4 of these sessions for
Right.
sure.
And since the video is working, Phil Pace, we might as well just have you come back for 4 more.
But I'd be remiss if I don't have you share this one story, because you talked about your son, and you sent me a video, and you said a little bit about it at Christmas time, and Phil said in the comments, it brought a smile to his face watching that video. I almost teared up. I mean, just thinking about it makes me happy.
Yeah.
Share with us the story of Jack at Christmas time.
Okay, so every year we go to, there's school plays. Well, Jack can't go to those because it's an auditorium, it's full of kids, loud sound. So he just wouldn't go to them. He would hum, cry, scream. This is every year that he's been in school. And and actually when he was diagnosed, the state said he has to start at 3. So he's been going to school since 3 years old. It wasn't even determined. They're like, no, he's going to school, which was kind of devastating. That we didn't have more time with him.
Right.
So it would be the headphones, it would be the rocking back and forth, the crying, and because we've tried a few, and the aide would take him out after that. So he's never been able to stay in anything of a school play, school musical, or anything.
Yeah.
So this year I sent a video, and I'm like, and what I say is the lesson I learned from my youngest especially, and which helps me even today, is that I look at things differently.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because he taught me how to look at things differently, because he sees things differently. And I think that's important.
Yeah.
Because I think that'll make you a better person and maybe a better business owner. So this year, and we always sit at the very end of the bleachers. So we're there to save Jack.
Yeah. In case of emergency,
Right.
Yeah.
you pull you crash
You're
the
there.
glass and you run.
Yeah. And he's always the last one in the corner. So he either get yanked first, and we're right there, If Dave doesn't do it, we can go there and do it.
Right.
Well, they put him in the center
Yeah, you did.
of this group. And I remember the year before that, though. He wanted to be there so bad, and that's the thing. It's like he wants to be there, but all this, he can't be there.
Right.
And the year before, they had tears coming down his face as he was trying to sing in that. It's because he was fighting with himself because he couldn't do it. It was like so devastating. This year, he's center, and I sent the video because I was proud. I was proud that he may be on a path to be okay. He was the center stage of that show. And at the end, I mean, he was animated. All their kids were kind of doing their own thing, but you could tell who was enjoying the music was like the music was living through him. It was the most for me.
He was dancing.
He was dancing. He even got a little couple stemmings in like this.
Yeah.
But at the end, he yelled Hakuna Matata. That's his thing right now. Which
Nice.
means,
Sure.
it's going to be okay. But
No worries.
yeah, no worries. And everyone kind of giggled, and the audience laughed too. And it was like, so he stole the show. So for me, I even learned the lesson from that is that, for someone that couldn't do any of that stuff and fought within himself, this little 10-year-old, to do something so great like that, which was probably against everything his fears had to accomplish this. Like, how can you not be inspired by that?
Yeah.
And so
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How cool.
Yeah.
So if there isn't a reason to call Dynico Roofing before, I think we figured it out
Right.
by
That's right.
now, right?
That's right.
Corky has been someone that is a complete honest. I mean, he poured his heart kind of the whole hour here. So if you have a chance and you're in need of a roofer in the Wisconsin area, northern McHenry County area, Lake County area, give him a call. How do they reach you one more time?
Phone number is 815-385-2102. We're located in McHenry Corporate Center. The address for that is 4547 Prime Parkway. You certainly stop by if you wanted to go over everything or see samples or displays. And then for the website is dynico.net, so it's dynico.net. And I'm easily found on Google. One of the reasons is thank you to Prime Power Partners. They help me be found a lot easier, but I'm easy to be found. And there's a lot of content on that, which shows also too that besides learning the trade and being in the trade and then learning the business and figuring out the business, is you even can tell by little things on a website or a review, some of the pictures that are put on there. This is a company that cares, that what they look like, that are how people feel about them. And you can tell which companies put in the time for that and which ones don't. So that's why I say I'm easy to be found.
That's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking your busy Wednesday afternoon and spending some time with us, sharing your story.
Thank you for letting me talk.
Yeah, appreciate it. We could have planned a better day, right? Cold, wet, rainy, icy. Can't be up on the roof anyway.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're welcome for that.
So thank you guys for tuning in for the Total BS show. Next week, we have Elite Home Restoration, a company out of Schaumburg, Illinois, that's going to be joining us as well.
That is it.
And we're going to have some fun. So thank you guys very much.
That's it. Thanks for tuning in.
That's it for another hour of the Total BS Show. If you enjoyed this past hour, please like and subscribe to our Facebook and YouTube channel. Tune in next week as we spotlight another business and dive into even more BS.
Oh, so exciting.
So exciting.
A lot of BS.
Dive into it.
Diving.
Swim.
Get it all over
Can
you.
you imagine he pays us to do this?
Zuck?
Zuck does it.
Yeah. Have you gotten the check?
I'm not.